Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
We're very fortunate tonight to have Swami Ashram visiting from Hawaii to give us this beautiful kirtan. And he's also going to be doing a lecture tonight. Before we send him back. So he's been practicing bhakti for decades and is a disciple of our founder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada. And he has a deep knowledge of our ancient wisdom texts, as well as deep knowledge of the human condition and the heart. And so his classes are really filled with just love and knowledge. And so we're super fortunate to have him tonight. And so without further ado, I give you the again, just
Chakshurunmilitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Mukhaṁ karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yakripa Tamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataram Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupakadavaham Tadati Svapadantikam Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pradeshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatide Shatarine Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhobhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Thank you for supporting me in that. I have never chanted that tune in public before, and I know I don't have the pipes for it. It's a tune that our friend Achyuta Gopi made me fall in love with. And I heard someone in Dallas, young devotee in Dallas, Texas, Hare Krishna community has amazing kirtan singers among their young people especially. And I heard, I think it was that tune, one woman winding up for that tune, and I just thought, hope she's got the pipes for it. She does. So thank you very much. I'm very grateful for your support there. I want to start with a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Is there anyone who's here for the first time? Oh, cool. Welcome. You're from Tucson? And you as well? Nice. Have you ever been to a Hare Krishna program before?
No.
Oh, and you, sir? Have you? No. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'd better rewind a little bit then. But I will start with this verse from Bhagavad Gita. This is a very familiar verse to those who've been practicing for a while. The Bhagavad Gita is one of widely recognized as one of the great wisdom texts in the world. And great thinkers, especially the last 200 years or so, great thinkers all over the world have found inspiration, wisdom, solace in the Bhagavad Gita. A couple of the American transcendentalist authors back in the 19th century, Emerson and Thoreau, wrote of their appreciation for the Bhagavad Gita. Mahatma Gandhi read Bhagavad Gita every day and took inspiration and strength and sometimes solace from the Bhagavad Gita. And I remember when I found out about Mahatma Gandhi when I was maybe 12 years old. And then I found out that he read Bhagavad Gita regularly. I thought, this is interesting. So I tried reading it when I was a teenager. I don't remember which edition it was. It was something from the Fairfax County Library in Virginia. And then later, when I was serving in the Navy, I was an intelligence analyst, and I saw a lot of what our forces were doing in Southeast Asia during the Vietnam conflict. Aerial bombardments and shelling from battleships offshore, and it was distressing. And so I got into Gandhi, and then that reminded me of the Bhagavad Gita. And I tried, I think, reading 3 or 4 different editions of Bhagavad Gita while I was in the Navy, and I couldn't make any sense of it. It was a little frustrating for me. And then in 1965, my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, whose image you see here, brought the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita to the West as intended. The Bhagavad Gita presented in a way that Krishna himself intended it to be presented. And there's a very strong sense in which this book is a book about relationships more than it is about religion. It's about love more than religion. And real love, not just a sentiment, not what you might call lust. I want something. It's not about Subarus. The NPR people, I get you. Okay. But it's about the love that actually drives our inner self. So Krishna begins the Bhagavad Gita. Well, here's the setting for those who aren't. Is there anyone who's not at all familiar with the Bhagavad Gita? The new people, something about Bhagavad Gita? Oh, okay, cool. So then I have to do this too. So the setting is, this is part of the Mahabharata, and Mahabharata is maybe the greatest of the epic poems of the world. It's 100,000 verses, and it encompasses a huge swath of the history of India. And it goes back many, many generations and leads up to a great war at a place called Kurukshetra. And this is actually a war being conducted. The two parties are actually first cousins. And they grew up together. But because one of the parties, called the Kauravas, were driven by selfishness, by greed, this conflict became inevitable. And many efforts were made to thwart this war, to keep it from happening, including Krishna himself. Krishna himself convened a meeting of both parties and made a pretty drastic demonstration trying to stop the war, but it wasn't going to happen. So just on the verge of this war, as the two armies are arrayed on the battlefield, Krishna, has actually out of love agreed to serve as his friend Arjuna's charioteer. Arjuna was one of the princes who were actually driven by a desire, as we've been discussing in our morning classes, a desire to protect the citizenry. And that's moved by their love for Krishna, their love for the absolute truth. And So one of those princes, very close friend of Krishna's, Krishna agreed to serve as his charioteer, which is a subservient position. Although the charioteer was also an advisor to the warrior on the chariot. So Krishna took this position, and Arjuna asked him to draw his chariot up between the two armies so that he could see just what he was being confronted with, just what it was he had to do. And Krishna, being a character, drew the chariot right up in front of those to whom Arjuna was most deeply attached. His great uncle, who was effectively a grandfather to both parties. They referred to him as Grandfather Bhishma. If you've ever seen video presentations of Mahabharata, there was a brilliant one in the 80s by B.R. Chopra, to which my family and all the girls in the San Diego Hare Krishna community were addicted. Every Saturday, 4 o'clock, all the girls in the San Diego Hare Krishna community gathered at our house, because you know how the cable guys, sometimes they leave a couple of cool channels on for free, even after the 10-day trial thing expires. So they left this international channel, and somehow or other, right at the beginning, right when it started, we discovered this presentation of the Mahabharata. 96 or something like that episodes. A really amazing presentation. One girl actually learned Hindi by watching this. She learned a lot of Hindi, not, she didn't become fluent yet, but so he draws this up, the chariot right in front of Grandfather Bhishma and Arjuna's martial teacher, his guru, Dronacharya. And confronted with that, Arjuna desisted. He freaked out, practically had a nervous breakdown. Said, I'm not going to do this. And he presented a very thoughtful argument based on dharma, based on the codes of what you might call religion. Religion's kind of a weak word for dharma. It has different meanings at different levels. But kind of nice sounding arguments. And Krishna rejected those arguments, saying, well, it sounds nice, but especially in this context, it's not going to work. And then he proceeded to explain to Arjuna that you're thinking on the basis of bodily attachment, and what you're really being confronted with here is a need to kill your deepest attachments. It's not so much Bhishma and Drona and all the warriors on the other side that's actually making you balk. It's being confronted with your deepest attachments. Don't do that. And he argues with him over 600 odd verses in the Bhagavad Gita from several angles of vision as to why he needs to engage in this particular activity, why it's his duty as a prince, as a warrior, to actually protect the citizens, and to help Krishna actually root out adharma, irreligion, from the world. And eventually he convinced Arjuna. Along the way, and this is kind of where you see that the Bhagavad Gita is more about relationships than any religion. And I'll get there even closer in a couple of minutes. What do I have? 15. Oh, I'm halfway through. I think I can do this. I'm terrible with time. I used to be a teacher, and getting through, depending on whether it was a Monday, I taught college English, and depending on whether it was a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class or a Tuesday, Thursday class, it was either 50 minutes or 75 minutes. And I always thought, it's wrong that the clock's there behind me. It needs to be there, because I need to keep track of what's on the clock, not them. They're sitting there waiting. Okay, when's the old guy going to be done? And I need to, anyway. So here I go. So in text 11 of chapter 4, Krishna says, Ye yatamang prapadyante, tang stataiva bhajamyaham. Mama vartmanu vartante, manusya parta sarvasha. Srila Prabhupada's translation is, all of them, as they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects. So, in a little context, the previous verse, in the previous verse, Krishna says, Vitaraga bhaya krodha munmaya mamupashita bhavo jnana tapasa puta madbhavam agata. This is, if we're freed from attachment, fear, and anger, and we completely immerse our consciousness and take in God, in the absolute truth, in Krishna, and take refuge in him. He says, those who are able to do, many people in the past have already become purified by knowledge of me, and they've attained transcendental love for me. And then he says, so however someone approaches me, in the manner and to the depth with which someone approaches me, I respond accordingly. And so this is a way of understanding how the absolute is equal to everybody. We want to understand why how some people have a great life, some people have a mediocre life, and some people have, sometimes an awful life. And people tend to think that God is cruel. But this material energy that governs our environment, this is one of God's energy. And it's mostly about justice. And it's called the law of karma. It's not a lot of fun to talk about because it seems mechanical. But this is how things are set up for those who have, for whatever reason we might imagine, chosen to separate themselves from our source. And so he says, however someone approaches me, I respond accordingly. So if someone approaches him with deep love, like Arjuna, and his four brothers, Yudhishthir, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadev, or their mother, his aunt, Krishna's auntie, Queen Kunti, or their Draupadi, their wife. If someone approaches him with love, that's how he responds. If someone is indifferent, he behaves indifferently. It's not that he doesn't love those people, not that he doesn't love all of us equally, but he responds to our approach. I mean, we're the same way, aren't we? I mean, if I had students who were like sponges and worked really hard to improve their writing and their capacity for thinking critically and asked me lots of questions, come and saw me during office hours, I treated them differently from the kids, the guys who would, sometimes like miss class. I taught for a while at San Diego State University. And a lot of the fraternities, and they would take the freshmen who were rushing their fraternities on Wednesday night. Wednesday night was, I don't remember what they called it, basically TJ night, Tijuana night. Because I guess the drinking age there was 18, although it's 21 in California, so that all these kids would go down there and get themselves blasted. And if I had an 8 o'clock Tuesday, Thursday class, I had this one kid that actually told me, well, Wednesday is TJ night. And I said, well, Thursday, 8 o'clock is English 100. You signed up for this class, your mom and dad are going to be ticked off if you don't get what you're supposed to get out of it. So, and it's not that I didn't care about him, but I saw he didn't care about me. He didn't care about the class. He cared more about, sleeping in on Thursday mornings because he'd gotten dragged home late from Tijuana. So Krishna's the same way. And the more intense that love is that we approach him with, the more he's affected by it. I had one of my friends posted something that I really liked on Facebook a couple of weeks ago. He's a really smart, really clever guy, one of the most talented musicians and one of the kindest people I know. And I know a lot of very kind people. Um, and he just, he posted something like, "What's your elevator pitch? How would you describe in 3 floors what you do?" And that was occasioned by an encounter he had had the day before. I guess he had taken his wife to the doctor, and someone in the elevator, they were going up to the 3rd floor, and someone in the elevator said, "What do Hare Krishnas believe?" He said, "Oh, we believe in love. And if that love is pure enough, it can even influence the Creator." That's what this verse is about. This is about love. And in his introduction to the Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada makes the point that the Bhagavad Gita is about developing one or another of different kinds of personal relationships with Krishna. And I remember when I read that in must have been 69, all of a sudden, I mean, I didn't know that's what the Bhagavad Gita was about. I didn't know that it was about relationships. I thought maybe it was about duty and meditation or something like that. And that's there. But at the very end of the Gita, well, actually once, in the middle of the Gita, the 9th chapter, generally referred to as the most confidential knowledge, that's the title our Srila Prabhupada gives that chapter, Krishna starts out by telling Arjuna, "I'm going to tell you the most confidential knowledge of all right now." And he builds throughout 34 verses in the chapter and progressively glorifies bhakti, which is love for the Absolute. And when he gets to the end, he says, here's what it all adds up to. Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Use your mind to think of me. Manmana bhava madbhaktaha. Become devoted to me. Become my bhakta. Become my devotee. Mamyaji. You want to worship somebody? Worship me. You want to follow someone? Want to offer obeisance, fealty to someone? I'm actually, frankly speaking, as humbly as I can, I'm the best person for that as well. When Srila Rupa Goswami, one of our past teachers, about 500 years ago, wrote a book about how to develop bhakti called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master, presented it, a summary study of it in 1970 called The Nectar of Devotion. It's a book I work with a lot of devotees with over the past, maybe 18 years or so, starting when I was still married and lived on the Big Island. And the very first word in that book is a Sanskrit word, Akila Rasamrita Murti. This is a name for Krishna. That means he's the embodiment of all varieties of love. He can actually receive as much love as you can give, reciprocate it, and in whatever variety, whatever kind of love you might feel for him. He can actually reciprocate that. Most of us can't. I don't think many of us have much capacity. I mean, I get embarrassed just when people are nice to me. Because I guess I don't trust that anybody, could actually care about me, I guess. Ooh, boy, time for therapy. So, but he's different. He's actually the opposite of that. He can accept and reciprocate as much love as we can give, almost. There's a certain group of girls in his hometown, Vrindavan, that actually challenge him. And he had to admit to them, I can't actually repay your love. You're just going to have to be satisfied with your own goodness. And then he kind of made a deal with them later that we'll figure out. I'll tell you what, I'll make another appearance and I'll make people your devotees. So Krishna also ends the Bhagavad Gita by saying the same thing. At the end of the 18th chapter, as he builds toward the end, he says, okay, we've talked about so many confidential things now over the last 600 odd verses. Now, I'm going to talk about the most secret of secrets. Flush that key, right? And then what does he say? Same thing he said right in the middle of the Gita, at the end of the 9th chapter. Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhya. And that adds up to just love me. Because when there's love, we think about people. We can't not think about them, and we want to do things for them. And sometimes it even feels like we adore them. Just reminded me of a Christmas song, I guess. Oh, come, let us adore him. Right? So he says that's ultimately it's meant for me. And if you give that, if we present all that to the source, that loving source reciprocates in kind. Plus, just as watering the root of a tree nourishes all the branches, the leaves, the fruit, flowers, the fruits, everything. When we give our love to the source, then it's actually possible for us to love each other unselfishly. And that's where Srimad Bhagavatam, the next of our wisdom texts, picks up, which I often refer to. So it looks like the time's just about up. So I'm going to leave a couple of minutes to see if there are any comments or questions, if I said anything wrong, anything confusing. Now's your chance. Otherwise, we're going to start singing in about 2.5, 3 minutes. Yes?
Let's say you didn't, you weren't loving, and you want like repentance for that. How do you do that? You just like, yeah, how do you do that? If you didn't love somebody that was wrong, what do you do about that? It's confusing.
Well, I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, but it sounds to me as though, what do we do about the fact that we are short on love, right? We find people who have love, and they share their love with us. That's how bhakti works. Srimad Bhagavatam says that bhakti comes from bhakti. We get bhakti from those who have bhakti. We try to put ourselves in an environment that's conducive to that, where there is bhakti. Just like I was speaking last night, the example that's given of the nature of the Atma, the Jiva, the self, it's like a crystal. We're kind of marginal. We can either be influenced by Krishna's internal spiritual energy or what we think of as his material energy, which is kind of our condition now. I identify with being an old American man with some degrees, and I taught, and I had a wife and 2 kids, and I've got some grandchildren, stuff like that. And I vote for this party or I don't, and I like that football team or whatever. But we can identify with that love. That's Krishna's internal, his heart energy, that love. So if we put ourselves in that environment, just like a crystal ball, take a crystal ball, it's clear. So it may look white, but I'll see my fingers. There's an MC Escher picture like that, right? So, but if we put it in a red box, that crystal ball is going to look red. If we put it in a blue box, it's going to look blue. If we put it in a yellow box, it's going to look yellow. We're like that. So if we put ourselves in an environment that's full of love, like this kirtan, I felt everyone's love supporting, this poor guy, he's scared to death to try this tune out that he's never chanted with anyone, never led anyway with anyone ever before. And, I chickened out last night, and I thought, I'm not going to chicken out today. I'm not going to, anyway. And I felt that. And then when I looked outward, I could see that support, that love in the devotees' faces. And I felt it coming from. So we want to put ourselves in an environment like that. And gradually, our heart becomes purified. and it becomes a nice place for love to grow. And as that love grows, then we become real people. Is that helpful? Thank you. It's an excellent question, because that's our situation, right? We're all competing with each other because we tend to see ourselves, even though we wouldn't admit it. But if we think about it, the way we behave generally is kind of based on the idea that I'm the center of the universe. What's close to me is important, and the farther away it is from me, the less significant it is. I don't know what's going on in Kazakhstan. I mean, that's so far away. And, you know, all kinds of things are going on in Kazakhstan. Doesn't have anything, it doesn't have anything to do with me. We used to think, oh, what's going on in Ukraine doesn't have anything to do with me until a little over 2 years ago, right? But my family, my house, my car, somebody hits my car. I remember I had a brand new Saturn back in 1973, the only new car that I've owned in my life. And someone ran into the car. And I just thought, I got out and I looked at the car and I just thought, why did that guy hit me? Well, he didn't hit me. He didn't see me coming, and his truck ran into my car. But because I identified with that car, I was really, it was like a lesson for me. Man, you're really attached to that car. That thing's a tool for getting you places. And somehow or other, you're identifying too closely with it. Why did he hit me? So that's our tendency to kind of see ourselves as the center of the world. But if we can make, if we can make the source of everyone the center, then we're able to share love with everyone else. I hope that was a helpful answer for you. Anything? I think we're out of time, right? I don't hear a horn blowing, but is that just deferring to me?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then we'll stop here and we'll sing some more. Thank you all so much for your indulgence. Hare Krishna.